Sullivan Croft never liked blind dates, but after losing his parents and working all the time, his best friend said he should finally try one. So on a quiet Saturday evening, Sullivan dressed nicely, reserved a small private table at a cozy Italian restaurant, and waited and waited and waited. At 8:32 p.m., he finally got a message from the matchmaker. "Sorry, Sullivan," it said. "She can't make it. Something came up." Sullivan sighed, paid for the appetizers he hadn't eaten, and stepped outside into the cool night air. The evening was supposed to be simple, just one date. Instead, he felt lonelier than ever. But life had another plan. As he walked through the parking lot toward his car, he heard soft crying. He stopped and looked. A young woman sat on the curb with her face buried in her hands. Next to her were two small children. A little girl, about 4 years old, held a worn teddy bear. A 3-year-old boy held an empty juice box. The little girl whispered, "Mommy, don't cry. We're okay." The mother tried to wipe away her tears, but they kept falling. Sullivan hesitated for a moment, then he slowly walked closer. "Ma'am, are you safe? Can I help you?" The woman looked up, startled. Her eyes were red and tired, full of a kind of pain Sullivan hadn't seen in a long time. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to scare them. I didn't know where else to go." Her name was Alara Vance, and as she started talking, her story came out in bits and pieces. Her babysitter had canceled at the last minute. Her ex refused to help. She had brought her kids to a job interview she really needed, and they wouldn't let her in with them. Her car broke down as she tried to leave. The repair cost was more than all the money she had saved. Now, she was stuck in a parking lot with two tired, hungry children. Sullivan felt his chest tighten. He had never met this woman, but suddenly she mattered to him more than he could explain. He knelt down to the children's level and smiled gently. "Hey, are you hungry?" The boy nodded. The little girl shyly held up her teddy bear as if asking for help too. Sullivan didn't think twice. He bought them dinner. He called a mechanic he trusted. He paid for the car to be fixed, pretending the shop was giving a special discount. He even held the little boy while Alara helped her daughter use the restroom. Something amazing happened. The kids loved him immediately. The little girl held his hand without fear. The boy fell asleep on his chest while they waited for the car to be fixed. And Alara, she looked at Sullivan like he wasn't a stranger, like he was a miracle. What Alara didn't know, and no one in that parking lot knew, was that Sullivan Croft was a millionaire CEO. He didn't tell her. He didn't want her to think he was helping just because he was rich. All he knew was that she wasn't his blind date, but she was exactly who he was meant to find. As he watched her children sleep peacefully in the back of the mechanic's courtesy car, Sullivan felt something he hadn't felt in years: home. Sullivan Croft had spent the last 5 years building his company, Vantage Solutions, from a small startup into a $40 million business. They made special software that helped people manage projects on the internet. At 38, he was successful in every way people measure success. He had money, respect, and recognition in the business world. But in his personal life, his life was empty. 4 years ago, his parents had died in a car accident. They were gone suddenly. Sullivan had no other close family. He threw himself into work after their deaths, working long hours, traveling, going to meetings, giving presentations, and creating new products. Working hard kept him busy and distracted from sadness, but it didn't help him heal. "You need to start living again," his best friend Beckett said over and over. "Your parents wouldn't want you just existing," Beckett said. "They'd want you to have a life. Friends, maybe family, something beyond just work." Sullivan had said no at first. Dating felt impossible. Losing people had scared him. Better to stay focused on work where money could replace loss instead of caring about people and risking emotional pain. But Beckett didn't give up. "One blind date," Beckett said. "Just try it. The matchmaking service I use is good. They match personalities, not just photos. Meet one person. If it doesn't work, fine, but just try." Sullivan finally agreed. The matchmaker had set him up with someone intelligent and successful who liked technology and travel. They were supposed to meet Saturday evening at Bellaiotti, a cozy Italian restaurant Sullivan had visited with his parents years ago. Sullivan dressed nicely, not in a business suit, but in slacks and a button-down shirt. He wanted to look friendly, not corporate. He arrived 15 minutes early, asked for a private booth, and ordered appetizers to calm his nerves. Then he waited. 7:30 became 7:45. Then 8. Sullivan texted the matchmaker, "Is my date running late?" "She hasn't answered," came the reply. "Let me try calling her." By 8:30, Sullivan had eaten both appetizers, trying to keep his nervous energy under control. The server refilled his water 3 times, clearly noticing he was being stood up, but staying professional. Finally, at 8:32, the message came. "Sorry, Sullivan, something came up. I'll try to reschedule with someone else next week." Sullivan felt disappointed, not angry, but lonely. He had tried to open his heart and had been rejected. It made staying closed off feel safer. He paid for the untouched appetizers, left a generous tip, and walked out into the cool evening. His car was parked far away, as usual. Sullivan liked to park away from other cars to protect his BMW. That's when he heard the crying. Soft at first, almost lost in the traffic sounds, but real. He looked around and saw them. A woman on the curb, face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking. 2 children beside her. A girl holding a worn teddy bear and a boy clutching an empty juice box. Everything in Sullivan told him to keep walking. This could be a family problem, maybe dangerous. He didn't know them. Their problems weren't his. But then the little girl whispered so softly, "Mommy, don't cry. We're okay." And the mother, she tried to be strong, tried not to cry in front of the kids, but the tears kept coming. Sullivan recognized the pain. He had felt the same kind of sadness after losing his parents. So even though he had many reasons to stay away, he walked closer. "Ma'am, are you safe? Can I help?" The woman looked up, embarrassed. She was in her late 20s, clothes clean but worn, makeup smudged. Her eyes were red, tired, filled with pain that came from struggling too long. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "We're fine. I'm having a bad day. We'll be okay." Sullivan crouched down to be less scary. "You don't have to tell me, but sometimes talking helps." Her story spilled out. She was Alara Vance, 28 years old, mother to 4-year-old Iris and 3-year-old Jude. She had worked as a waitress for 3 years, barely making enough for rent and childcare. She had almost no savings. "My babysitter called 2 hours before my shift today," she said. "My ex was supposed to have the kids, but he didn't show. I had to call in sick to work, which means no pay. My manager was angry because we were already short-staffed. Then I got a call about a job interview, an office manager position at a medical clinic. Better pay, real benefits, daytime hours. They asked me to come at 6 p.m., but I still had no childcare. I thought maybe I could bring the kids quietly, but the receptionist saw them and said I couldn't stay. They needed someone who could work without kids. I tried explaining, but they wouldn't listen. I walked out feeling completely defeated. Then my car wouldn't start. The repair could be $500 or more. I have maybe $300 in savings, and without my car, I can't get to work to earn money to fix it. I'm stuck." Sullivan listened, feeling both anger at the unfairness of it all and compassion for Alara, who was doing her best. "Are your kids hungry?" he asked, pointing to the restaurant. "We ate lunch," she said quickly. She didn't want charity. "But Mommy didn't eat," said little Iris. Sullivan gently said, "You're not fine, and your kids need to eat more. Let me buy you dinner. The restaurant I was just at has good food. We can eat there while we figure out your car." Alara looked at him, suspicious but also hoping. "Why would you help us?" "You don't know us," she asked. "Because I can help," Sullivan said, "and I want to. That's enough." Sullivan had replied simply, no strings, no expectations, just one person helping another. There was something in his voice that felt kind and real, not pitying or judging. Alara felt a little better. She nodded, wiped her face again, and helped her children stand. Okay, thank you. We'll pay you back once I fix my car and go back to work, she said. Don't worry about paying me back, Sullivan said. Just come eat. He led them back into Beleode, the restaurant, where the hostess looked surprised to see him return with a woman and two children. The lady I was waiting for arrived, Sullivan said smoothly. Can we have that corner booth again? Alara asked. They were seated quickly. Sullivan asked for a high chair for Jude, even though the little boy protested that he was big enough for a regular chair. The server brought menus, and Sullivan told Alara to order whatever she wanted. The kids can share a pasta dish, Alara said, still trying to be careful with money. I'll just have water and maybe a side salad, she added. Mom, Sullivan said gently, using a word that felt universal and warm. Your kids just saw you crying in a parking lot because life has been really hard. Let me do something nice for you. Order real food, something you'll actually enjoy. The lasagna here is very good. Or the chicken parmesan. Please try it. Maybe it was his kind tone, or maybe she was just too tired from struggling all the time, but Alara finally agreed. She ordered the chicken parmesan. Iris got spaghetti with meatballs. Jude wanted mac and cheese. Sullivan ordered his usual penne arrabbiata, more to look like he was eating than because he was hungry, since he had already eaten appetizers. While they waited for the food, Iris shyly showed Sullivan her teddy bear. This is Mr. Buttons. Mommy gave him to me when I was a baby, she said. He looks like a very good bear, Sullivan said seriously. Has he been helping you? Iris nodded. He helps when I'm scared. When Daddy doesn't come, Mr. Buttons says it's okay. Hearing a 4-year-old talk about her absent father made Sullivan's chest feel tight. Jude was quieter at first, but he opened up when Sullivan asked about his favorite toys. Trucks, the boy said. Big trucks that go vroom. My dad had a truck when I was your age, Sullivan shared. Big red pickup truck. He let me pretend to drive it in our driveway. Do you have a daddy? I did, Jude said. He died a few years ago. Sullivan nodded. I have really good memories of him. Alara watched this conversation, feeling many things. She was surprised that this stranger was talking to her kids so kindly. She felt grateful for his help, and maybe a little sad that her children's father didn't give them attention like this. When the food arrived, Sullivan watched Alara take her first bites of chicken parmesan. He saw relief on her face. Warm, good food after a very hard day felt comforting. The kids ate happily too. Iris was careful with her spaghetti, but enjoying it. Jude got mac and cheese everywhere, but was very happy. While you eat, Sullivan said, let me make some calls about your car. I know a good mechanic who might be able to look at it tonight if I ask nicely. You don't have to, Alara started. I know I don't have to, Sullivan said gently. I want to. Let me help, please. He stepped away and called his personal mechanic, Hank, someone Sullivan had used for years. Hank always did favors for him because Sullivan treated him well. Hey, Hank, it's Sullivan Croft. I have a friend's car that won't start, stuck in the Beleode parking lot with her 2 small kids. Can you send someone tonight? I'll pay extra for emergency service. Hank agreed and promised a technician would be there within an hour. Sullivan went back to the table. Alara was helping Jude wipe mac and cheese off his face. The mechanic will be here in an hour, Sullivan said. He'll check the car and give us an estimate. I can't pay much beyond $300, Alara reminded him. Let's see what the problem is first, Sullivan said. We'll figure it out. They finished dinner. Sullivan ordered dessert for the kids even though Alara protested. Iris got tiramisu, and Jude picked chocolate cake. As they ate, something amazing happened. The kids relaxed completely. Iris started talking about her preschool and her best friend Luna. She said she wanted to be a teacher one day. Jude climbed into Sullivan's lap without asking and made himself comfortable like he belonged there, sticky fingers and all. Alara looked at Sullivan differently now, not as a stranger helping out of pity, but as someone she could trust. maybe even someone who understood what she had been going through. "Why are you really doing this?" Alara asked quietly while the kids enjoyed dessert. "Men don't usually just help single moms in parking lots without wanting something." "I was supposed to have a blind date tonight," Sullivan admitted. "She canceled at the last minute. I was feeling sorry for myself when I heard you crying. I thought, here I am upset about a date while you're facing real problems. Car breakdown, injection, tired kids, no safety net. My problem was ego. Yours was survival. Helping you puts things in perspective." "So this is guilt?" Alara asked, not angry, just trying to understand. "No," Sullivan said honestly. "This is using what I have, money, time, connections, to help someone. It feels better than going home alone feeling sorry for myself." Before Alara could respond, Sullivan's phone rang. Hank, the mechanic, said the car had a dead battery and a broken alternator. Total cost, $750, including parts, labor, and emergency fee. Alara's face fell. "I can't pay that. I'll have to figure out a payment plan." Sullivan interrupted. "Do the repairs. I'll cover it." "Sullivan, I can't let you," Alara protested. "Tell you what," Sullivan said. "Consider this a loan. Once you get back on your feet, you can pay me back. No interest, no timeline, just when you can. That way, it's not charity. It's helping you get through a crisis so you can go back to work." Alara looked skeptical but desperate enough to accept. "Okay, but I will pay you back every cent." "I believe you," Sullivan said, and he truly did. Alara's mix of pride and gratitude convinced him she would. The repairs took 2 hours. Sullivan stayed with them the whole time, not because he had to, but because leaving felt wrong. Iris fell asleep against his side in the restaurant booth. Jude demanded Sullivan hold him and said, "You nice," before falling asleep on Sullivan's chest. Alara watched, tears in her eyes again, but this time different tears. Relief, gratitude, feeling like maybe the world hadn't completely abandoned her family. "Your kids are wonderful," Sullivan said quietly, careful not to wake Jude. "Iris is bright and smart. Jude is loving and trusting. You are doing an amazing job raising them despite how hard life has been." "I'm barely surviving," Alara admitted. "Some days I don't know how I'll feed them, pay bills, or have childcare to work. Their father only gives the court-required minimum. No extra help, no showing up. They're amazing kids despite him, not because of him. They're amazing because of me." "They're amazing because of you," Sullivan corrected. "Because you fight for them every day. Because you went to that interview without childcare, trying to make a better life. Because when your car broke down, you still made sure they were safe. That's excellent parenting, Alara. Don't diminish it." Alara cried quietly so she wouldn't wake the children. "Thank you. For dinner, for fixing the car, for being kind to them, but mostly for saying that. I needed to hear that someone sees my efforts." When the mechanic called, the car was ready. Sullivan gently moved sleeping Jude into Alara's arms and carefully picked up Iris, still holding Mr. Buttons. He helped buckle them into their car seats, checking everything was safe. "Can I give you my number?" Sullivan asked. "So you can tell me you got home safely and for when you want to start paying back the car repair." Alara looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. They exchanged numbers. Sullivan saved her contact as Alara Parking Lot, so he would remember it wasn't a business contact. "Drive safely. Text me when you're home," he said. Alara drove away with her sleeping kids. Sullivan watched until her taillights disappeared. He felt something he hadn't felt in 5 years, like maybe life could be about more than work. Like maybe he had just met someone important. He went home to his empty apartment. It felt even emptier after spending hours with Alara's warm family. Soon his phone buzzed. A text from Alara. "We're home safe. Kids still sleeping." "Sullivan, I don't know how to thank you for tonight. You didn't have to help us, but you did. You treated my children with such kindness. That meant everything. I will pay you back for the car repairs. Thank you for believing me about that." Sullivan smiled and replied simply, "I'm glad you're home safe. Your kids are wonderful. Take care of each other. Sullivan. He thought that would be the end of it, a nice evening helping someone in need. But life, as Sullivan would soon discover, had other plans. That evening in the parking lot hadn't been the ending. It was the beginning of something neither Sullivan nor Alara had expected, but both needed. Home. Family. Love. Built on real care, not romantic fantasy. All from one canceled blind date and one chance meeting in a parking lot. The next Sunday morning, Sullivan woke thinking about them. Had they slept well? Were the kids okay? Was Alara managing everything? He checked his phone many times, half hoping for a message but not wanting to bother her. Around noon, his phone buzzed. A text from Alara. Sullivan, the kids wanted me to thank you again for dinner and fixing the car. Iris keeps talking about the nice man who held Jude. Would it be okay if we repaid you for the car in installments, maybe $50 per month? I know it will take over a year, but it's what I can manage. Alara Sullivan smiled when she read the message. She liked how determined he was to repay the money, even though he knew she didn't have a lot of money. She knew $50 a month was probably hard for her, since she only made a little money working as a waitress. He decided to call her instead of texting. He wanted to hear her voice. Hi, Alara. I got your message about paying me back. Can we talk? He asked. Of course, Alara said, sounding a little nervous. I know $750 is a lot of money, he said, but maybe you can pay me back in a different way. Not with money. Alara paused. I don't understand. What do you mean? I want to see you and the kids again, he said gently. Not as paying me back, but just as friends. Yesterday evening with you was the best night I've had in 5 years. Your kids are amazing. You are an amazing mom. I enjoyed being with all of you more than anything I've enjoyed in a long time. Can we do it again? Maybe lunch today? My treat. No money, no debt, just friends spending time together. Alara thought for a moment and said carefully, Sullivan, I need to be honest. I'm not looking to date anyone right now. My life is too busy and I need to focus on my kids and money. If you're asking because you want to date me, I'm not ready. Sullivan answered quickly, I'm not trying to date you. I'm just lonely. I lost my parents 4 years ago and I buried myself in work. Yesterday with you and Iris and Jude, I felt what it's like to be around family again, to talk about normal things, to hold a sleeping child and feel safe. I just want friendship. Nothing more. No pressure. Just to see you again. Alara was quiet for a moment. Just friendship? Nothing more? Yes, just friendship, I promise, Sullivan said. Okay, Alara finally agreed. The kids would love to see you again. Iris has been asking about you 3 times this morning. Where should we meet for lunch? They met at a family-friendly restaurant that had a play area for kids. Sullivan had looked online to find a place the children would enjoy. When they arrived, Iris and Jude ran to him and hugged him tightly. Alara smiled too, looking less tired than the night before. Over lunch, Sullivan learned more about Alara's life. She had been working at the restaurant for 3 years. She made just above minimum wage plus tips, which changed every day. She wanted to save money for community college, but emergencies kept using up her savings. Car problems, medical bills, childcare problems, everything added up. My ex, Beckett, only pays the court-ordered child support and nothing more, Alara explained while the kids played. He's supposed to have them every other weekend, but he cancels a lot. He says he's busy with work, his new girlfriend, or he just doesn't feel like it. The kids keep asking why Daddy doesn't want to see them. I don't know what to tell them that won't hurt. That's not your fault, Sullivan said quietly. He's choosing not to be there. You're doing your best. I know, Alara replied, but it's hard when Iris asks if she did something wrong to make Daddy not love her. She's 4 years old. She shouldn't feel unlovable. Sullivan's chest tightened. He felt angry at Beckett and sad for these kids, wondering why their dad didn't stay for them. Can I ask something personal? Sullivan asked. You can ask. I'll tell you if it's too personal. Alara said. What happened with you and Beckett? How did you end up raising two kids alone with a man who won't even show up? Alara sighed. We met when I was 22. I worked at the restaurant where I still work. Beckett was charming and said he wanted to build his own business someday. We dated for a year and I got pregnant with Iris. He promised marriage, family, and to provide for us. But after Iris was born, everything changed. He resented the baby. He resented that I couldn't work full time because childcare was expensive. He didn't like that our lives revolved around a crying baby. When I got pregnant with Jude, unplanned but not unwelcome, Beckett left before Jude was born. He pays exactly what the court orders, sees the kids maybe once every 2 months, and has zero interest in being a dad. Wow, Sullivan said. So you've been doing this alone for 3 years. Full-time work, raising 2 kids, managing everything by yourself. That's a lot. Yes, some days I barely keep it together, Alara said. Yesterday was one of those days. Everything fell apart, and I couldn't hold it in anymore. You're remarkably strong, Sullivan said sincerely. Most people would break under these circumstances, but you're still fighting, still trying to build a better life for your kids, still being kind. That's amazing. Alara looked at him, tears forming. Thank you for saying that. Most people just judge struggling single moms. You're the first person in a long time who sees I'm doing my best. They spent 3 hours at the restaurant. Between watching the kids play and eating, they talked about everything. Alara shared her dreams, finishing college, moving into professional work, buying a house so the kids could have their own rooms and a backyard. Sullivan shared his story too. He told her how he buried himself in work after losing his parents and how spending time with them made him realize he needed real human connection, not just work. Can I ask why you didn't tell me what you do for work? Alara asked at the end of lunch. I thought you might treat me differently, Sullivan said. I'm the CEO of Vantage Solutions. We're worth about $40 million. I wanted you to see me as just Sullivan, the guy who bought dinner for your kids. Would I have accepted your help if I knew? Alara asked. Probably not. I would have seemed too intimidating, or you might have thought I wanted something in return for my money, she admitted. Exactly, Sullivan said. Knowing about my money doesn't change how I feel about our friendship? No, Alara said. You've been kind to me and my kids, and that matters more than your bank account. Over the next few weeks, they've been close friends. Sullivan visited regularly. Sunday lunches became their tradition. Sometimes he came on weekdays when Alara could manage. He was great with the kids, reading bedtime stories, playing games, making them laugh. You're better with them than their own father. Alara said one evening, Why aren't you married with your own family? I was engaged once, Sullivan said, but she left me when I said I wanted to wait on having kids until my business was stable. After that, I focused on work, easier than risking being hurt again. And now? Alara asked. Now I realize work can't fill everything, Sullivan said. Spending time with you and the kids showed me what I've been missing. You and Iris and Jude have become really important to me. Not romantically, but as people I care about. 3 months after meeting in the parking lot, Sullivan called Alara one evening. I have a proposition. Please hear me out before you say no. That sounds concerning, Alara said, laughing. The job you interviewed for, office manager at a medical clinic, right? Better pay, normal hours, benefits? Sullivan asked. Yes. Why? My company, Vantage Solutions, needs an office manager for our downtown office. It pays $60,000 a year with health insurance, retirement, paid time off, 9 to 5 hours, weekends off. Would you be interested? Alara paused. I can't accept a job just because we're friends. People would think I'm using you or that you expect something from me. I'm not giving you charity, Sullivan said. I'm offering you a real job because you're qualified. You've been managing a restaurant for 3 years. That's exactly what office managers need. You're smart, capable, and can do this. If you fail, we'll handle it like any other employee. Alara thought carefully. Can I think about it? It's a big decision. Of course. Of course. Take your time, Sullivan said. 2 days later, she called back. I want the job. But promise me, if I'm not doing well, you'll tell me. No special treatment because we're friends. I want to earn this job. I promise, Sullivan said. You'll report to the office director, not me. Performance reviews will be fair, just like anyone else. 2 weeks later, Alara started her new job. She did very well. Her boss said she learned fast, organized the office, and handled tasks easily. Her life changed. She now had steady income, a better apartment, health insurance, and regular work hours. She could take the kids to the dentist and have consistent bedtime routines. You changed our lives, Alara said at one Sunday lunch 2 months later. I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm actually building something. I opened a savings account last week, something I haven't done in years. Iris is going to a better preschool now. Jude has new clothes that actually fit him. We're doing okay, better than okay. And it's because of you. You gave me a chance. You made this work. Sullivan smiled. Alara, I gave you a job interview. You earned this job with your skills, and you kept it because you worked really hard. Don't forget your part in this success. 6 months after they first met in the parking lot, something changed between them. Sullivan had been having dinner with Alara and the kids at their apartment. It had become a normal thing on weekdays. On nights, Alara didn't work late. After they put the kids to bed, they would sit together on Alara's small couch, talking. One night, Alara turned to Sullivan and asked, Can I ask you something honest? Always, Sullivan said. Are you still interested in just being friends, or has that changed? Sullivan's heart started beating fast. What makes you ask? Because I watch you with my kids, and I see how much you love them. And I watch you with me, and I see something more than friendship in your eyes. Sullivan, if your feelings have changed, I need you to be honest, because mine have changed too. How have they changed? Sullivan asked carefully. I'm falling in love with you, Alara admitted. I've been trying not to because I was scared. I didn't want to ruin our friendship. I worried you were only being nice because you felt sorry for us. But you keep showing up. You love my kids for real. You helped me change my life, not by rescuing me, but by giving me real chances. And somewhere in all of that, friendship became love. Relief and happiness rushed through Sullivan. I love you too, he said. I have for months, but I promise just friendship. I didn't want to make you feel pressured because I helped you. Alara, I want everything. I want us to be partners, to build a life together, to be a real family with you, Iris and Jude, but only if you want that too. It's what I want, Alara said. You're already part of our family. Iris asks when you're coming every day. Jude calls you Gran because he can't say your full name yet. You read bedtime stories, help with baths, know their favorite foods, fears, and dreams. You're already their dad in every way that matters except legally. Then let's make it legal, Sullivan said. Not right away, Alara replied. We should date first, make sure romance works the way friendship worked. But I want to marry you someday. I want you to adopt Iris and Jude if Beckett agrees. I want us to be a real family. They kissed, their first kiss after 6 months of friendship. It felt like coming home. Natural, right, and full of promise. They dated for a year. Sullivan wanted to make sure the romance worked and that Iris and Jude were okay with him being more than Mommy's friend. The kids were happy. Iris started calling him Dad Sullivan to tell him apart from her real dad. Jude just said Dad within weeks. One day, Iris asked Sullivan, Will you marry Mommy? I'm planning to ask her, Sullivan said. Would that be okay with you and Jude? Yes, Iris shouted. Then we can all live together and be a family. Sullivan proposed on the 1-year anniversary of meeting Alara in the parking lot. He took them to Belle Ayotte, the restaurant where he first had dinner with them. After dessert, he got down on one knee. Alara Vance, he said, 1 year ago, my blind date canceled, and I walked through a parking lot feeling sorry for myself. Then I found you crying with your kids. My life changed completely. You've shown me what love really means. Partnership, building life together, choosing each other every day. You let me be part of your family. Let me love your children. You've shown me what home feels like. Will you marry me? Will you let me be your husband and Iris and Jude's dad, legally and forever? Yes, Alara said through tears. You're already our family. Let's make it official. They married 3 months later in a small ceremony focused on family. Iris was the flower girl, Jude the ring bearer, and both kids giggled through the whole ceremony, excited that Dad Sullivan was officially their father. In his vows, Sullivan said, Alara, you came into my life when I'd almost given up on finding real connection. I was drowning in work. Then I found you in a parking lot, crying with your children. I realized you mattered, not as someone to rescue, but as a person I could help. These 2 years building life together have been the best of my life. You've shown me what partnership means. Iris and Jude have shown me what being a dad means, being there, loving unconditionally, being part of the small and big moments. You three are my family. Thank you for choosing me. Alara said, Sullivan, you found me at my lowest. Car broken, job rejection stinging, kids tired and hungry, me crying in a parking lot. You could have walked past, but you didn't. You helped without expecting anything. You loved my children for who they are. You gave me a job, but made me earn it. You respected me while helping me grow. You showed me what real love looks like. Partnership, respect, consistency. I choose you today and every day. 5 years after that parking lot meeting, Sullivan and Alara stood in the same spot holding hands. Iris, 9, and Jude, 8, played nearby. Their twins, Sylvie and Reese, were 3 years old, born 2 years after the wedding. 5 years ago, my blind date canceled, Sullivan said. I found you crying, and that moment changed everything. Not because I rescued you. You didn't need rescuing, but because I chose to help, and you chose to accept. That choice created everything we have now. 4 kids, successful work, real partnership. Alara added, sometimes I still can't believe this is our life. 5 years ago, I was a struggling mom, barely affording rent, kids asking why their dad didn't show up. Now they have a father who adores them, siblings who make them laugh, stability, and family. Purpose beyond just work, Sullivan said. Home that actually feels like home. Alara, you gave me everything I was missing. Love, partnership, kids to raise, reasons to come home instead of working all night. That parking lot meeting changed both our lives. Iris ran over, Sylvie toddling behind her. Dad, can we get ice cream like that first night when you helped us? Absolutely, Sullivan said, scooping up Sylvie while Alara gathered Reese and Jude. Let's celebrate 5 years of being a family. They walked together to the restaurant, 2 parents, 4 children, looking like any normal family. Even though their beginning was extraordinary, Sullivan felt grateful. His blind date canceling had felt like rejection, but it led him to where he was needed most, helping a mom and her kids, creating a family through choice, not just biology. 10 years later, Sullivan and Alara celebrated their 8th wedding anniversary at the beach with all 6 of them. Iris, 14, Jude, 13, Sylvie, and Reese, 8, played in the waves. They talked about how their lives had changed since that parking lot evening. Do you ever think about how different life would be if your blind date hadn't canceled? Alara asked. Or if I had walked to my car 5 minutes earlier or later and missed you? Sullivan admitted. But I think we would have found each other anyway. Our qualities, our needs, our love. It would have brought us together somehow. I'm glad it happened the way it did. The first night you accepted help set the foundation for everything. Their children ran up, laughing, sand-covered. Riss wanted a sandcastle. Sylvie pulled Alara to the water. Iris and Jude, now teenagers, sat close to their parents, happy and comfortable. This is family, Sullivan said. Not perfect, not always easy, but real. Built on that night in the parking lot when I chose to help and you chose to accept. That night started it all. 15 years after the parking lot meeting, they celebrated Iris's high school graduation. Iris, once a shy 4-year-old, was now confident, ready for college with a full scholarship to study social work. "I want to help families like ours," Iris said in her speech. "Families who struggle, parents trying their best, kids wondering if they're loved. I want to help them find hope and stability, like Dad helped us 15 years ago." Sullivan cried as he listened. Iris had been legally adopted 5 years earlier after Beckett gave up parental rights. She was his daughter in every way that mattered, and hearing her credit him with changing their lives was deeply moving. Jude, now 17 and getting ready for college, shared his thoughts. "I don't remember much from before Dad Sullivan came into our lives. I just remember feeling scared, Mommy crying a lot, and we never had enough food. But I do remember the night Dad showed up. I remember him holding me while we waited for the car to be fixed. I felt safe for the first time I could even say it. Everything got better after that night. Not right away, but over time. It took years of work from both Mom and Dad, but that one parking lot meeting started it all." 20 years after that parking lot meeting, Sullivan passed away suddenly at 58 from a heart attack. It was unexpected and very sad. Alora became a widow far too young. The whole family was heartbroken, especially Iris and Jude, who had known Sullivan as their true father since they were little. At his funeral, Alora remembered their 20 years together. She said, "Sullivan and I met because his blind date canceled. He had planned to spend the evening with someone he didn't even know, looking for connection after being lonely for years. But instead, he ended up helping me and my children in a parking lot when we were at our lowest. That one act of kindness changed 6 lives completely." She continued, "It changed mine, Iris's, Jude's, and later Sylvie's, Reese's, and Sullivan's own life. We became a family, not because of love at first sight, but because Sullivan chose to help, and I chose to accept that help with gratitude instead of pride. From that choice, we built real love, respect, and partnership. Sullivan gave me a job that helped us financially, but more importantly, he gave my children a father who loved them, who was always there, and who chose them every single day even though he didn't have to. Iris and Jude had a dad who cared, who came to every school event, helped with homework, talked about their fears, and celebrated their successes. That love mattered more than money." 25 years after the parking lot meeting, Alara took her children and grandchildren back to the same spot. A small memorial plaque had been put there by Sullivan's company. She said, "On this spot, 25 years ago, Sullivan Croft met me and my children, Iris and Jude. That's where our family began. Remember, one act of kindness can change everything." One of Iris's children asked, "Grandma, tell us again about the night you met Grandpa Sullivan." Alara smiled and began, "Our car had broken down. I had just been rejected from a job because I brought my kids. My ex-husband wouldn't help, and I had no idea how to feed Iris and Jude or fix the car. I was sitting on the curb crying, feeling hopeless. A stranger walked by. He could have ignored us, but he stopped. He asked if we were safe, listened to our story, and helped. That stranger was your Grandpa Sullivan. He bought us dinner at this very restaurant, called a mechanic to fix our car, paid for the repairs without asking for anything back. He held Jude while I helped Iris, and he treated my children with kindness instead of seeing them as problems. That stranger became my friend, then partner, then husband, and finally the father of my children." Iris, now 44 with her own teenagers, added, "I was 4 years old that night. I remember being scared because Mommy was crying. But I remember a tall man kneeling to talk to me about my teddy bear, Mr. Buttons. I remember him ordering me spaghetti with meatballs and actually listening to me talk about preschool. Most of all, I remember feeling safe for the first time in months. Dad Sullivan made us feel safe." Jude, 43 and a successful lawyer, said, "I don't remember that exact night. I was only 3. But I remember how life changed after Dad came into it. Before him, life was scary and unpredictable. After him, there was stability, regular meals, bedtime routines, and someone who always showed up. Dad Sullivan didn't just help us that night, he kept helping. He chose us every day for 20 years until he passed. That's what mattered. Alara explained to the grandchildren, the lesson isn't about hoping someone will rescue you. It's about the power of kindness, choosing to help when you can, accepting help when you need it, and knowing that important relationships can start not with love or romance, but with simple kindness. Grandpa Sullivan had money and time that night. He could have gone on his way, but he chose to help, and I chose to accept it, even though I was proud and scared. Those two choices, his kindness and my willingness to accept it, created everything you see here today. This family, the love, the stability that let all of you grow up and follow your dreams. One of Iris's teenage daughters asked, Grandma, what about our biological grandfather? Does he know about all this? Alara said gently, Beckett, your biological grandfather remarried and had his own family. He gave up his parental rights when Iris and Jude were 12 and 11. He did it to avoid child support, not because he cared about the children. I haven't spoken to him in over 20 years. Iris and Jude sometimes hear about him on social media, but he's never really been part of our lives. The parent who raises you matters more than the one who gave you DNA. Beckett gave biology. Sullivan gave everything else: love, presence, support, guidance, and security. Iris and Jude are Dad Sullivan's children in every way that counts. The family shared more stories about Sullivan, the way he attended school events, taught skills patiently, had hard conversations, celebrated achievements, and supported everyone during struggles. He had become a father through a parking lot encounter, but he embraced the role completely. He loved children not biologically his just as much as his later children, Sylvie and Reese. Sylvie, 33, a pediatrician, said, he loved all four of us equally. He gave the same care, attention, and opportunities to all of us. We were just his kids, period. Reese, 32, a software engineer, added, I didn't even realize Iris and Jude weren't biologically dads until I was 8 or 9. At school, I was confused why my older siblings looked different, but they were just my brother and sister. Biology didn't matter in our home because it didn't matter to Dad. Alara explained, from the moment he met Iris and Jude, he treated them as deserving love and care. When we married, he legally adopted them as soon as Beckett allowed it. He never once called them stepchildren. They were completely his. That's what made him a real dad. 35 years after that parking lot meeting, Alara published a book, The Parking Lot Family. It told the story of how one act of kindness created everything. The book became very popular because it inspired single parents and people who had experienced life-changing kindness. During her book tour, Alara often said, this isn't a fairy tale about a rich man rescuing a struggling mother. It's about mutual support. Sullivan needed family and connection after losing his parents. I needed help and a chance to build a better life for my children. We gave each other what we needed. We built a partnership together, not through magic or instant rescue, but through hard work, love, and showing up every day. Sullivan didn't fix everything at once. That night he helped with immediate problems: dinner, car repair, and safety. But rebuilding our life took years, and most of it was my work. Sullivan gave me job opportunities, but I had to prove myself. He offered support, but I had to use it well. He became a dad through love and care, and we built that relationship together over time. Nothing happened magically. It took effort from both of us. The book inspired many organizations to help single parents, some helping with car repairs like Sullivan, others giving job opportunities or training. Alara worked with these organizations to help families facing similar struggles, continuing Sullivan's legacy of kindness and support. Alara had once said during the launch of a program she and Sullivan had started, every family deserves what Sullivan gave us. She didn't mean that every family would meet a rich person like Sullivan, because that is very rare. She meant that families deserve help when life is hard. They deserve help when emergencies happen, and got chances to work that understand being a parent, and communities that help instead of judging. They deserve systems that know single parents are trying their best, even when life is really tough. That was what they were building. Not fairy tale rescues, but real help to move families from hard times to safety and stability. 40 years after the first parking lot meeting, Alara was celebrating her 80th birthday. She was surrounded by her huge family: 4 children, 11 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren, and many in-laws and close friends who had become like family over the years. They all gathered at the same parking lot, which now had not just a small plaque, but a beautiful memorial garden that Sullivan's Foundation had built. Alara looked at the garden and remembered that night. I was 28 years old, very poor, crying with my children in a parking lot. Sullivan was 38, rich but lonely, walking from a canceled blind date. 2 people, very different lives, meeting by chance, both needing something the other could give. What we built from that night, Alara said, wasn't a fairy tale where everything became perfect instantly. It was real partnership. 2 people helping each other through hard times, building a family together, and creating something meaningful that has helped thousands of people through our foundation. Iris, now 64 with her own grandchildren, stepped forward. "Mom, Dad, Sullivan," she said, "please tell us one more time about that first night. Tell the story with all the details. I want my grandchildren to hear it from you." So Alara told the story again, just like it happened 40 years ago. She told about the car breaking down, the job rejection, sitting on the curb with Iris and Jude, trying to be strong but crying anyway. She told how Sullivan came over carefully, asking if they were safe, listening to her story. She told about the moment she decided to accept his help, even though she was proud and scared. She told about the dinner at Bella Nate, where Sullivan treated her children kindly, and about the hours waiting for the car repair. Jude fell asleep on Sullivan's chest, and Iris held his hand. She remembered the mix of relief, confusion, and careful hope as they drove home that night. "I texted Sullivan when we got home," Alara said, "to tell him we were safe, to thank him, and to promise I would pay for the car repairs. I thought that would be the end, a kind stranger who helped and then moved on. But Sullivan didn't move on." She continued, "He kept showing up at the restaurant where I worked, at the library, at the park where I took the kids. He built a friendship first, got to know Iris and Jude, earned our trust slowly, and then offered me a job that changed our lives. Eventually, he told me he loved me, loved my children, and wanted to be family together. We dated for a year before he proposed. We married after a short engagement. He legally adopted Iris and Jude when they were 12 and 11 after Beckett agreed to give up his rights. Then we had Sylvie and Riss together. We built a life together that lasted 20 years until he died suddenly at 58. And now," Alara said, 40 years after that first parking lot meeting, I have 4 children who all called him Dad, 11 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren, and a foundation that helps thousands of families. The real miracle," she said, "wasn't just that a rich man helped a poor woman. The real miracle was that 2 people met in crisis and chose to help each other instead of taking advantage. That we built real partnership, not a rescue. That Sullivan loved my children as much as our own, and that we used our resources to help thousands of other families." As everyone left that evening, Alara stayed alone in the garden for a few minutes. She looked at the plaque, remembering that night 40 years ago. Sullivan had been gone 12 years, but his love and kindness were everywhere. In her children, now raising their own kids with the values he showed, in the foundation still helping families, and in the many people inspired by their story. Thank you. Alara whispered to Sullivan's memory. Thank you for stopping when you could have walked past. Thank you for helping without asking for anything back. Thank you for loving my children as your own. Thank you for building a partnership with me instead of trying to control me. Thank you for showing me real love, for creating a family with me that has lasted 40 years and will continue through generations we will never meet. Thank you for everything. Standing in that garden, on the spot where Sullivan had found her crying so long ago, Alara understood that sometimes the most important moments of life feel like disasters at first. A broken car, a canceled date, sitting on a curb, crying. Those moments can become chances for kindness, for connection, and for love that changes not just one life, but many lives for generations. One canceled blind date, one broken car, one stranger choosing to help instead of walking past. One desperate woman accepting help even though she was proud. From those small choices came 40 years of love, family, partnership, and helping thousands of other families. That was the story of Sullivan and Alara, not a fairy tale rescue, but a real story of human kindness. It was a story about choosing to help when you can, accepting help when you need it, building real partnership instead of letting money or power make you unequal, loving children and using your resources to lift others out of hard times. 40 years after that night, their story lived on in 4 children, 11 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren, thousands of families helped by their foundation, and countless people inspired to show kindness to strangers in need. And maybe Alara thought that was the best way to measure a life well lived, not by money or awards, but by the ripples of kindness spreading from simple choices to help, love, support, and build something meaningful together, touching lives for decades and generations, far beyond what anyone could imagine.